Thank you, Chairwoman Hassan, and thank you to our panelists today for your time. I look forward to hearing from each of you. I'd like to begin my remarks with an observation, which is that the recent wave of ransomware attacks seems to have broken through into the public consciousness. I traveled my home state of Kentucky recently and was asked more questions about cybersecurity in those 10 days or so than in the previous 10 years. Yeah. Of course, we as policymakers have been concerned about this malicious activity for some time. And at the chairwoman's request, the subcommittee held a hearing on this just this last December. I'm glad that we're still continuing to look at this issue. From what I saw and heard from the people I represent, there's now a much more widespread appreciation for how disruptive these attacks can potentially be. Obviously, the Colonial Pipeline interruption and the specter of gas shortages was a major concern. The Kentuckians I spoke to were also concerned about the ransomware attacks affecting North American meatpacking facilities owned by JBS, which may not have received quite as many headlines as the pipeline, but which was also alarming. Clearly, we have a problem on our hands. The nation must be able to secure its food supply and deliver fuel where is needed. Recent cyber attacks have also targeted hospitals, school systems, water systems, and other essential services. So how can we combat this? As the old saying goes, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Cybersecurity must be prioritized in the same way that any other essential services are prioritized. As we will hear, recovering from cyber events, such as ransomware attacks and data breaches, is several orders of magnitude more costly than what it takes to implement and maintain good cybersecurity practices on the front end. Finally, I believe Congress needs to make sure that the federal government's role in detecting and responding to cyber attacks is limited and clearly defined, and that federal cybersecurity personnel are focused first and foremost on the security of federal information networks. The government can and should share information on threats and best practices with the private sector and state, local, tribal, and territorial authorities. However, Congress must keep critical infrastructure operators and state, local, tribal, and territorial in the proverbial driver's seat. One size fits all is not always the answer. Centralization is also not always the answer to cybersecurity. I'm particularly worried about a proposal that recently passed the House of Representatives, which would create a new multi-billion-dollar grant program to subsidize state and local cybersecurity. The Washington solution seems to be throw money at every problem, with the result being a $28 trillion national debt. As Americans, we face cybersecurity concerns that involve the availability of gasoline, the food supply, the electric grid, water, sanitation system, and our communication networks. Some of these are the very fundamental building blocks of our society. I look forward to the conversation, and I think we can all be open to what the solutions are, but I think we also need to be conscious of the fact that many of these things can be done and are being done in the private sector. Thank you.